All right, so let's go ahead and go over the pieces that we're going to need to make this bag. So you're going to need 2 lining pieces, and I have interfaced the back with SF101, which is a cotton woven interfacing, and I have cut the corners out already. You are also going to need 2 interior zipper pocket panels, and again, I've interfaced with SF101. You have 2 of those. You'll have your 4 recessed zipper facing panels. So 2 of those in your exterior and 2 in the lining, and I haven't quite figured out which one I'm going to use as the exterior and as the lining, if I want this to tie in with that or if I want this to tie in, even though that will be the lining. So I'll figure that out when we get there. You're going to have 2 top facing panels, and that's going to go on the top of the bag. You have, I guess I will say with this one, I am using vinyl and I have not interfaced this yet. I might when we get to that point later, if I want this to be a little bit more firm, and I probably will, just so I can also have a little bit of extra strength and stability there for when we attach the straps. But for right now, these are not interfaced. You'll have 2 center panels, and I have interfaced these with SF101, and then I used Decoville Light and cut it out about a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch around the outside. I've cut that back so it stays out of the seam allowance. Then optionally, if you're going to add the slip pocket, you will need 2 of those. And again, just interface with SF101. And then your 2 side panels. So these are going to go on the outside here. So you have 2 of those, and again, I have interfaced these with SF101 and then Decoville Light. Again, trimmed it down about, it's probably about 3/8 of an inch. You just want to keep it out of your seam allowance. So just trim that back, and that is attached. You will have a zipper pocket facing piece. That's going to go over your inside zipper. And then you'll have your 2 accent pieces. So this is going to go at the bottom of the bag. And this is the same vinyl that I'm using for the top here. And what I've done is I have interfaced with Decoville Light, just trimmed it down out of the seam allowance. I probably will add that as well to this before I attach that. So if you wanted to go ahead and do that now, you can. As far as this goes, I'm going to have 2 of these interfaced. I probably also will add a piece of Decoville Heavy to the base. When we get there, I'll show you that part just so I can have a little bit more of a firm base to the bag. So you will need a piece of Decoville Heavy for that if you want to do that. The measurements for that are provided in the pattern. Then you're going to need your straps. So I have 2 straps here, 2 in the vinyl. I have not interfaced these, and I will not interface these because I want these to be a little bit more flexible. And then I have 2 of, there we go, 2 of the lining. So it's going to be a 2-sided strap. Now, one thing I have not quite decided yet is if I want to use this fabric for the inside of my strap or if I want to use this webbing. And you'll see why in just a second here. We are also going to need zippers. The measurements are provided in the pattern. So there's a cute little Mario Kart zipper pull. And then we need a longer zipper. And as you can see, the zipper tape matches this webbing. So I might do that on the inside of this instead of using this. And again, I will show you when we get to preparing the strap. I'll show you how we put that together. So if you wanted to do something similar, you could. And then the other options we're going to need, I guess this is going to be for the recessed zipper. So you will need also a zipper pull, and I'm going to use this banana peel. for my recessed zipper pull. Then for my strap option, I'm using strap option A, which is where it just attaches to the top. It's not the one that comes all the way down the side with rivets. So I will need strap ends. So I have 4 of those. You will also need double-sided tape. That is optional but recommended, especially when working with vinyl. And like I said, a piece of Decoville Heavy, and the measurement is provided in the pattern for that. And I think that's it. I think we are ready to go ahead and get started. Okay, to make the recessed zipper, you're going to need your longer piece of zipper tape. The zipper pull is not attached yet because we will be attaching that at the very end of the bag. For right now, we're actually going to be separating this, so we don't need the zipper pull attached. And then you will need your 4 panels, your zipper facing panels. And then I also have a Tim Holtz mini stapler, and I will use that for the zipper. So what I will do here is I will just separate the end of the zipper and then folding the end back. So I just want a little 90-degree turn at the end of my zipper. So again, I'm just taking it, folding it back. Now you can, it's up to you, if you would like to, if you feel more comfortable adding a couple stitches to hold that zipper in place, you could just add a couple stitches there. You also could take a lighter and lightly singe the ends and then press it together, and that will also hold that end like that. I prefer using the mini stapler. For me, that just, it works really well, and I don't burn my fingers, and it holds the tape really well. All right, so that's what you want. You want to fold over your ends and secure them in whichever way you prefer. And then we're just going to separate the zipper teeth. Okay, and we can lay those to the side. You're going to take your 4 panels and turn them over and mark a line along one edge of your zipper panel. So I've already done that. As you can see, the measurement is provided in the pattern instructions for where you will mark that. And then you're going to take your double-sided tape and you're going to lay a piece of double-sided tape just to the outside of that line. So you're going to do that on each of the 4 pieces. Okay, and then removing the double-sided tape, the paper backing of the double-sided tape, you're going to fold this short end up to that line you marked. Okay, so that will help hold that end over for you. All right, you're going to do that on each of the 4 pieces. Okay, once you have those folded over, you're going to flip your panels back over, decide which you want to be the top and which you want to be the bottom, meaning do you want this part to be seen when you look at the bag with your zipper here, or do you want this part to be seen? So I think I'm going to stick with this for my top, and then this will be underneath, so it'll be the inside of the bag. And then that also matches with the lining material that I'm using for the inside as well. So taking your 2 pieces that you're going to use as the outside, the exterior, you're going to take one of your zipper tape halves, and the part that's folded down, you want to, I'm going to flip this over. So right now I have the folded ends, one at each end. So at the not folded end, you're going to lay your zipper teeth. There is a measurement in for how far you want it to be on your zipper panel. You're just going to lay it down. So the zipper teeth are face down. So I'm looking at the wrong side of the zipper tape right now. And then you want your zipper tail to be hanging off of the end that has the folded edge. Okay, now I'm going to take one of my exterior, or well, this is actually going to be the lining, so one of the linings, and I'm going to match it up so that the folded ends are at the same side. And I'm going to line that end up first. I'm actually going to add a clip right there at the end. And then I'm just going to clip it in place all the way across. Okay, so what you have here is a zipper sandwich. This is the top or the exterior. Then you have the right side of your zipper teeth. The wrong side of your zipper teeth is together with the right side of the lining, making that sandwich, and your tail is hanging off of the folded edge. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for the other panels. So with the folded edge there, the tail's hanging off, you're going to measure it in. Okay, so now if you look at your panels, if you look at them this way, they'll be reversed. So you have the top of your zipper teeth and then the top of your, or the wrong side of your exterior facing, and then here it will be reversed. So it's the bottom and then the lining, and that's how you want it. Okay, we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and on the non-folded edge, we're going to stitch up and then straight across, ending right here. So you're not going to stitch down here because we're going to be folding this back. You just want to add a couple little back stitches right here. So again, it's just along the zipper teeth and then to the end here at the non-folded edge. Same on this one, up to here and all the way across, stopping right there. Okay, so I'll take those over to the sewing machine, get that done, and I'll be back to show you the next step. Okay, so that is stitched. Again, just down the short edge and straight across the zipper teeth, stopping right there. And let me just trim off this little string here. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to trim the corner here at your sewn corner, and then you're just going to turn it through. And let me grab my little turning tool here. Poke that corner out. Okay, once it's poked out and looking good, you're going to line up your pieces, pressing them both away from the zipper tape. Flip them in place. I'll make sure everything is pulled away from the zipper tape. Okay, so once you get that folded back and away from the zipper tape, you're now going to take it to the sewing machine and top stitch along this edge, across the zipper tape, and along that edge. And then you can optionally just go ahead and finish the box, and that's just going to help to keep this piece nice and flat and together for when we attach it later on to the top part of the bag. So you're going to do that for both pieces. Okay, so once you get them both top stitched, it will look something like this. Again, I have another little string that needs to be trimmed off. All right, and then your zipper tape should be, if you did it the right way, zipper tape towards the middle, tails both at both ends, and everything is folded under and looking good. Once you have that, we can set this to the side for now, and we will move on to the straps. Okay guys, now to make the straps, I am making strap option A for this bag. If you wanted to make strap option B, I am going to show that later in this video. So I have my two exterior pieces, and I decided I'm going to use the strap webbing because I just think, well, for one, I really want to tie in the zipper tape, so I think that would tie in really neatly. And I also think that this is a little darker than the cotton material, so I think that would just wear a little bit better for a strap handle. So you're going to need your two lengths, your interior and your exterior. For the exterior piece, I've gone ahead and I've marked a line down the center of your panel, and you're just going to put a piece of double-sided tape along the length of the strap next to that center line that you drew. And you're going to do that on both sides. Okay, once you get that done, we're going to remove the paper backing from one of the sides. And then we're just going to fold this raw edge up to that center line. So the long edge should fold right up to the center. Okay, now you're going to do that the whole length of your strap. Okay, once you get one side done, you're going to flip it over, remove the paper backing from the other side, and then fold this side up to meet in the middle. Okay, so once you have that folded, now you're going to take your strap webbing, or if you're using cotton woven, you're going to do the exact same step as you did here, folding the pieces to the center, and then you're going to put the centers where you have that seam, you're going to put those together. So when you look at your strap, you won't see a seam anywhere. Since I'm using strap webbing, I don't have to do that. I'm just going to lay it on top, and I'm going to clip it in place. So I'm lining up the edge. You can see it's the same measurement all the way across. And I'm just going to clip these together all the way down the length of the strap. Okay, so as you can see, the strap is clipped together. Now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, and I'm going to top stitch down each long edge of the strap, down that side and down this side. So that is going to secure these two straps together, creating our one strap. Okay, so I'm going to take that over to the sewing machine, top stitch down each long side, and then I'll be back to show you the cap ends. And we're going to do the same step to both straps. So whatever you did to this one, you're going to repeat all those steps to create your second strap. Okay, so here's what the completed straps look like. I think that's going to look really good. I'm glad I did that webbing for the inside. That looks really cool. So I've got this sparkly vinyl on the outside, the webbing on the inside, and then you have your strap ends. So now we need to attach our strap end hardware. So, and we're going to do this now because it helps with placement on the bag later. So go ahead and set one of your straps to the side, and then grabbing your bag end hardware, or your strap end hardware, I should say. I'm using these end caps here that I got from Indo Love Creation. And I will link to these in the description notes on this video so that you can find them if you would like to. So I'm using these strap ends, little tiny screws, and let me grab my screwdriver. Okay, so to attach your strap end, you're going to take your end cap and you're going to slide your strap inside of it. You could also use, if you wanted to add a dab of glue into the end of your strap end cap, you could. I'm not going to do that for this one, but that's an option if you wanted to. Now you have your two little holes here, so you're going to take your two little screws and just screw those in. And here's another option, another place where if you wanted to add some sort of super glue or heavier glue, you could do that. So once you have that in, your end cap is attached. We're just going to repeat that same step for all four ends of your straps. Okay, now that I have both straps with the strap ends on, we are done with the strap or with the prep work for our straps. We can set these to the side and let's get started on making our exterior panels. Okay, so to start on our outer panels, you're going to need your two center panels. You're going to need, you should have four of these. You're going to have four side panels. And then if you are adding the optional slip pocket, you're going to have your exterior and interior slip pocket pieces. So setting these to the side, the first step we need to do is we need to take our slip pocket, if you're adding it, put our two pieces right sides together. We're going to clip it in place along the top curve. And then we're just going to sew, according to the seam allowance, we're just going to sew along this top curved line only. Okay, once you have that stitched, what we need to do is cut a couple little slit lines in here, just up to the stitch line. So with scissors, you can just go in, trying to get as close to the stitch line as you can without cutting through your stitches. And we're just cutting snips, and that's going to help ease the curve once we turn it through. Now, another option you could do here if you didn't want to do the snips is that you could use pinking shears and then just trim all along for the pinking, all along this curved edge. Okay, once you get that done, we're going to turn it through so it is right sides out. Pressing those seams out as much as possible. You could take it over to the sewing machine or to the ironing board and give it a press if you wanted to. But now what we need to do is we just need to top stitch along this curved edge. Okay, once you have that top stitched, you can trim off these little dog ears that popped out on the side. Okay, and now we're going to grab one of our exterior panels. So if it matters to you, depending on how you have your prints, let's see, I think I'm going to use this one because you can see the character a little bit better. I like how it's kind of peeking out of the pocket there. Okay, so what we need to do is we just need to line it up, the straight edges, and then the bottom curved edge. Okay, so this is what you have here. One of your center panels with your slip pocket on top. You're going to take your two side panels, lining up the straight edges on the side. We're going to lay it down right sides together. So you're going to line up this top edge, clip it in place, and your bottom edge should overhang a little bit, and that is what you want. So if your top edge is lined up, this should overhang just a little bit. And then that way, when we stitch it down and then turn it back out, so once we press this panel away from the center panel, all of your stitches will line up. Okay, so once you have that clipped in place, you're just going to stitch along both straight edges according to the seam allowance provided in the pattern. Okay, once you get that stitched on, you're just going to fold your side panels away from the center panel. You want your seam allowances going out towards the side panel, not towards the center. And then you're going to top stitch down the side right here on this folded edge on the side panel. You're top stitching on the side panel about 1/8 of an inch away from that side seam. Okay, so it should look something like this at the end. And again, if you wanted to trim off these little dog ears, feel free. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with the other panel, but since there is no slip pocket, we don't have to worry about that on this side. So we're going to do the exact same thing, lining up those straight long edges. We're going to stitch it down each side, flip these panels back, and then top stitch along the folded side. Okay, here is both panels completed. Now the last thing we need to do is just mark the center of these panels. So what I will do is I will fold it in half, matching up the side seam right here. And then just finding that corner, I'm just going to give it a teeny little snip. So when I open it up, you can see that little notch. So I'm going to do the same thing to this one, and this is going to help us attach our accent base in the next step. Okay, there's the notch on that one. Okay, now that we have that done, our next step is to attach the top bands. So we are going to attach them face down. And before I attach them, I did not do this earlier, but I am going to add a piece of Decoville light just down the center here, just to help give it a little bit more structure. And then I will do that off camera. And then I will, so what you want to do is you just want to, let's see, center these like this. Again, if you're adding the Decoville light, you want to cut it so that it is smaller than this panel, so you have that space all the way around, just to help keep it out of the seam allowance. So once you get that stitched down, you're then going to flip this panel up and then top stitch along this folded edge. And you're going to do that to both panels. Okay, so here's what your two panels are looking like so far. Your top is stitched on, and again, I went ahead and I added that Decoville light, trimmed it down to keep it out of the seam allowance, stitched that panel on, flipped it up, and then top stitched along this edge. Same for this panel. And then just trimmed the sides so that everything was nice and even. If there's any overhang at all, if your seam allowance was a little bit off, maybe when you were sewing, you might have a little bit of an overhang, and just go ahead and trim that off, keeping it nice and straight. And now that we have that done, this is where we are going to put our base piece on. But I will say, if you're doing strap option B, you are going to do that first. So I'm going to put in the instructions for strap option B. After this, I will tag where you can fast forward to if you're not using strap option B, you want to just continue on with the bag. You've already made your strap option A, so that you have that. But I wanted to make sure you guys had both options so you could see how it would work, since strap option B has to be put on now, the next step, before we attach this bottom band. Okay, so strap option B will be next. If you're doing strap option A, I will put a little marker here in the video of the timestamp for where you can fast forward to. Okay, this is going to be the tutorial for strap option B. So if you chose strap option B, you will have 4 pieces of strap material, 2 at this length, or width I should say, and then 2 at a little bit wider width, and those measurements are provided in the pattern. So I'm going to stick 2 of them to the side for now. The steps will be the same for both straps. On the back of each, you're going to mark a line down the length at the center mark. And then you are going to apply a piece of double-sided tape. So what we want to do is we want to fold the long end into the center on each of these straps. So you're just going to apply a piece of double-sided tape down that center mark. Okay, removing the paper backing. If I can. There we go. And then you're going to take this long end and fold it to the center. And depending on the type of fabric you're using, if you're using a thicker vinyl like I am, it is not going to want to stay. So I'm just going to add clips as I go, just to help hold it. Then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. So removing the paper backing. And folding the other side up to meet in the middle. Okay, once you get that done to the wider strap, you're going to do the exact same thing to the more narrow strap. Okay, once you get both of your strips clipped, you're going to set the skinnier strip to the side for now. just for a moment. We're going to take the wider one over to the sewing machine, and we're going to top stitch at 1/8 of an inch along each long edge of the strap. So just top stitching along each long edge, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how we're going to attach the smaller strap. All right, so your wider strap is top stitched. Now we're going to flip that over, and you're going to take your smaller strap and align it in the center. So you want it the same distance on each side of your strap. And then you're going to, with this one, I'll just clip it in place, but you could also use double-sided tape if you wanted to use some tape down the length of it. But you want it to be centered left to right on your strap. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clip this all the way down. The one thing I will show you, just a little trick, because I am using thicker vinyl here, and depending on the type of machine you have, it could be really thick at the seams when you're attaching it to the bag. So one thing I will do is just cut a little V. Get this clip out of the way. Make sure you're staying in the back side only. So you still have that, so you won't see it from the front. But having that little V is going to take some of that bulk out. Let's see if I can clip it and show it a little bit better. It'll take some of that bulk out when you're sewing these together. So I would do the same thing on this one. And just clip that little notch up like that. There you go. And then when you're attaching these together, as you can see, that really cuts down on the bulk right there. And I think it'll be easier on your machine and on you when you attach it to your bag later on. Okay, once you get your strap attached all the way down the length of it, and I'm not going to worry about that this one is a little bit longer, I'll just trim those to match at the end. But now what we're going to do is we are going to top stitch down the short, or down the long sides of the shorter strap. So that's going to attach these two strap pieces together. So just take it to the machine, top stitch all the way down just on the short strap, right on the edge, just like you did on the wider strap. We're going to do it to the smaller strap, thus attaching the two straps together. Okay, so this is what your completed strap should look like. The bottom was top stitched first, and then we laid the smaller one on top with the seams in the middle, and then top stitched that one to the bigger one, creating our single strap. Okay, once you get that done, we're going to do the same thing to the other strap, and then we'll be ready to attach it to the bag. Okay, now that we have the straps finished, what we need to do is attach it to this panel before we put on the bottom accent piece. So you are going to take your strap and center it over the seam right here that you created between the center panel and the side panel. You're going to center it, aligning the center of your strap right over the edge there. And then you're going to mark, I've already pre-marked where my holes are going to be punched. You're going to punch holes. So this, I started 1 inch up, and then I made a mark at every 1 1/4 inches. So the width between the rivets are totally up to you. You can do them at every inch and a half. You could just put 2 or 3. It's really personal preference. So this one I'm going to do it at every 1 1/4 inches. So the first step that we need to do to attach it is we're going to punch the holes through the strap, and then we're going to use that as a guide to mark where to punch the holes through the main piece, and then we'll be able to put it all together with the rivets. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my handy dandy little hole puncher and make the holes in the strap. Okay, once the holes are punched, just want to make sure that they come through to the other side, and I think they all will. You just gotta punch out the little holes there. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it over to my, here, let me just punch the rest of these out. I'm going to take it over to my main panel, and I'm going to again lay it down centered over that center seam. And if you want, you can add a couple clips just to help hold it in place. And again, making sure that you are right over that center seam. You can add a clip to the top here. And that's just going to help hold it in place for when you're marking where your holes are going to go. Okay, let me just make sure that I can see those. All right, I think those are pretty good. Sometimes they're a little tricky to see, but these ones should be just fine. So now what we're going to do is punch the holes in the main panel. Some of them are easier to see than others. So since I know they are 1.5 inches apart, or sorry, 1.25 inches apart, I know if I measure up from here, yep, there's that hole, the mark right there. It kind of blended in with the little fireworks. So I just wanted to make sure. Okay, once you have all of your holes punched, now we're going to take our strap and take our rivets, and we're going to set the rivets once we get it all connected. Okay, so grabbing my rivets here, I'm going to put a rivet up through the back side. I'm going to push it through that front strap. There we go. I'm going to do that for each hole all the way down. Okay, now that I have those all attached, I'm going to do the same thing for this side. So I'm going to punch the holes, use that as a mark, and then attach with rivets and set the rivets, and then our bag will be installed. Now the one thing I will say, if you're going to add some sort of D-ring or hardware that you can attach something to, you're going to want to slide that onto your strap first, and then as you're going, before you put the rivets in these last two, you're just going to slide your hardware between the last two holes. So you want the hardware sandwiched between these top two rivets. And then that way that will secure it in place, and then you'll have something where you can hook a tassel keychain or something, some sort of charm or anything like that that you would like to attach to the bag. You can attach it right there. Okay, so your strap is all attached. The one thing that I will note, if you are using a thicker strap and you would like to have more space here to work with than what is provided if you have, you know, your last rivet here, you can always leave this top rivet off. Just set the other rivets. That will give you that much more room to work with, and then you can have plenty of room here when you want to put your bag pieces together. And then the last step at the very end, once you have your lining and everything connected, then you can go ahead and punch through both layers, so the exterior and the interior, and then set your rivet through all of those layers. So that is just one option there if you wanted to do that for your bag. Otherwise, the last thing we need to do is just trim off this little bit here so that it's even with the bag. And then we are ready to attach our base. So moving back to the other video, the main video where I was doing strap option A, what we're going to do is mark the centers here and here, and then we're going to attach this and sew it all together. So I will see you back at the other video to finish our bag. All right, so now that either your strap option A, you fast forwarded and you're here with me now, or you did strap option B and you've attached your straps to the main panel and you are ready to attach the accent base. Whichever option you're doing, we are going to do the same step now to attach this to the bottom of our main panels. So with your accent pieces, we have to find the center just like we did on those main panels. And again, I'm just going to make the tiniest little snip so I can see where the center notch is. Okay, and then taking one of your panels, you're going to lay it right sides down. So you're matching at that center notch. Your main panel is going to curve down, your accent panel is going to curve up, and that is what you want. So I'm going to add a couple little clips just right here in the center to help hold it really well. And then I find personally it's easier if I work from this direction. I will curve this around, and that just, I found that that helps me with lining it up better. It just works better for me to curve it as I go. Instead of trying to bend something a certain way, if I just take little clips, and then as you can see, like right here, it doesn't want to curve down, so I will clip it, and then I'll just go to the next little bit, clip it, the next little bit, clip it all the way around. And then you probably will have a bit of an overhang. And again, that's okay, because once we stitch it and flip it back, it should line up just how we want it to. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side, curving and clipping as I go. Okay, so once you get that clipped, it's going to be very curvy. What we want to do is we want to take it over to the sewing machine now and just stitch according to the seam allowance. So it's up to you which way you want to go. I usually find it's a little bit easier if I lay it this way on my sewing machine and stitch from this side around. This side just feels like I have to fight it a little bit more. So what you want to do is you just want to start according to the seam allowance, stitch all the way around, and then this panel is going to fold down, and you're going to top stitch along that bottom curve. Okay, so I will take this to the sewing machine, I'll stitch that, I will flip it back and top stitch it, and then I'll be back. Okay, so once you get that stitched on, you're going to flip it down, and amazingly, you might be surprised, the first time I did it, I was like, what? It lays so smoothly and nicely. I don't have to do any clipping or anything. So yeah, once you get that folded back down, you're just going to top stitch along this curved line. And then, like I said, the overhang should match up pretty well. Just go ahead and trim off that little dog ear. Okay. And then if you have your straps, if you're doing strap option B, your straps will be coming up this way. I will say that it does get bulky here if you're doing strap option B, so make sure, if you choose that, make sure you have a machine that can handle it. Otherwise, you might want to stick with strap option A. All right, so once you get that done, we're going to do the exact same thing to the other side, and then we are ready to put our two main panels together. Okay, now that we have both panels ready, we are ready to attach the bag together, the two panels together. So what you want to do is you want to lay them down right sides together, lining that bottom edge. Okay, so now we're going to sew along this bottom edge according to the seam allowance. And then we're going to come back, and this is where I show how you can add a little bit of extra Decoville Heavy to the base if you wanted a more firm base to your bag. So we are just going to stitch along the bottom. Okay, so that bottom seam is stitched. What we want to do now is open up the bag. And then we're going to butterfly open this bottom seam. So you can press it open. Now what I like to do is just use some double-sided tape. You don't have to, but I find, especially depending on the type of material that you're using, it can really help to hold that seam open. And then I'm also going to grab my seam roller, which looks something like this. And then removing the paper backing from both sides. Just going to press that open. And then using my seam roller, and again, this is just an extra thing. You don't have to do it, but I just find that it helps it to, I'm sorry if the camera's a little shaky. There we go. I just find that it helps it to hold it down a little bit while I'm doing the next step. Okay, so now the last thing we need to do is take our piece of Decoville Heavy, and we're going to attach it right here in the center. Now I will use fabric glue. You are free to use double-sided tape or just clip it in place. It's up to you. I'll just put a little bit of fabric glue on here. It dries pretty fast and it helps hold it really well. This is Fabri-Tac fabric glue by Beacon. And then I will just try to get it centered. So it needs to come down this way a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then I'll just press it and hold it for a second. Because what I want to do now is take it over to the sewing machine. I'm going to flip it back over. And then I'm going to top stitch down each side of this bottom seam, and that's going to attach my Decoville Heavy. It's going to secure it to the base of my bag. So top stitching here. Optionally, you can also stitch a box all the way around the bottom in addition to top stitching down the center seams. That's just an additional feature, security if you want it. You don't need it, but you can do it if you would like to. Okay, once you get that stitched down the center, again, that is securing your piece of Decoville Heavy to the base. We are ready to sew up the sides. So matching up your side panels, you want to match up this top seam right here. Clip that in place. And then you want to match up this curved edge as well. So as best as you can, match that up. And I would add a couple clips here just to help it hold it in place, because you really want that side seam, that curve, to line up, because that's what's going to give you that really neat point on the side of your bag. Okay. Then I would clip it all the way down. Do one clip at the top, flip it around, do the same thing on this side. Making sure your bag is nice and flat. You're gonna add or line up that side seam first. All the way along to each edge. Okay, making sure my bag is laying nice and flat, flipping it over to make sure it looks good. There's no extra anything there. Everything is still laying nice and flat, looking good. Okay, now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, stitch along both long edges according to the seam allowance. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to box our corners, so I will be back to show you that step. Okay, sides are stitched up. The last thing we have to do now is box the corner. So you'll just squeeze those together and you want to match up your side seams. So once you get those lined up, add a couple clips. I'll also add a couple here to the side just to help make sure it holds it nice and well. And then you're going to stitch across the bottom here according to the seam allowance. I might add just an extra row of stitching as well just to help give it a little extra strength. And then we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Matching up that center seam. Okay, so once you get these two side seams sewn, then your outer bag is done. You can turn it through and we'll get our first peek at what our finished bag is going to look like. Okay, here's the first peek. Here's my slip pocket. And then you've got the sides matched up perfectly for that point. Here's the other side of your bag, the other seam. That's a little off, but I don't think anybody will notice. Your base. All right, guys, it's gonna look so cute. Okay, now that we are done with our exterior, we can set this to the side, take a break, have peace chocolate. All right, so our next step is we are going to move on to the lining. Okay, now we are ready to move on to the lining. So the first thing we need to do is with our two main panels, decide if you are making the recess zipper, which you should already have decided. Because if you are, you should have already cut that out and made that part. If you are making the recess zipper, we are going to trim off the top. There is a measurement provided in the pattern instructions. We are going to trim off the top of each of these panels. If you are not making the recess zipper and you're just leaving it as an open tote bag, you're going to trim off. There's a measurement, again, provided in the pattern. There's how much you're going to trim off here, and that will account for not attaching that recess zipper. Okay, so I have trimmed off the top according to the pattern instructions, how much needs to be trimmed off of the top of each panel. Now, one of these we can set to the side because we're not going to need it until we attach the recess zipper. The other one we're going to work on, and this is the one, this top panel, we can set that to the side for now. This is the one that we're going to be adding our zipper pocket to. Okay, so now what we want to do is with your zipper overlay, we're going to attach double-sided tape to the back of that. Okay, and then removing the zipper tape. Actually, let's do this first before we remove the zipper tape. We want to find where the center of the panel is. I should be able to see that line there. And then about 2 inches down is where we want to have this panel, the zipper overlay, about 2 inches down. So again, just measure in from the sides to make sure it's even. And mine needs to come over a little bit. Yep, okay, that's pretty good. All right, so then just pressing that in place. What you're going to do now is you're going to take it over to the sewing machine and you're going to top stitch along the outside edge of this zipper overlay only. Don't stitch the inside, just stitch around the outside. And if you want to, optionally, you can leave some long tails with your thread and then you can pull it through to the back and tie it off. I think I'm going to do that for this one. And that really, you don't have to do that. You could do a couple back stitches when you start and stop. But if you leave the long tails and pull it through, then that just kind of makes it so that you can't tell where you started and stopped in your stitching. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to leave long tails. I'm going to stitch around the outside of the box, and then I'll be back to show you how I tie it off. Okay, so if you haven't seen this before, I have 2 long tails on this side and I have 2 long tails on this side. And what I'm going to do is here, let me just zoom in to help you be able to see that a little better. You pull one of the strings and then that brings up a loop. So you can catch that loop and pull it through, and that's one of the strings from the front. And then with the other string, you're going to do the same thing. So you're going to pull it. See how it popped up that loop right there? I'm going to catch it and pull it through. Carefully, because I don't want it to break. There we go. All right, once you get all 4 strings pulled through, you're just going to take 2 and 2 in each hand and tie them off in a knot. There we go. I'm trimming those strings, and on the other side you can see, since it was pulled through, you can't tell where I started and stopped. All right, now let me zoom back out. Okay, so now what we want to do is we need to cut away this center here. So I'll take my rotary cutter and just on the lining fabric, just cut a line. I'm going to flip it upside down, and then with my scissors, I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut just the fabric away, not cutting my zipper overlay. So go slow on this part, because you want to make sure you don't accidentally snip your zipper overlay, because if you do, you're gonna have to take it apart, cut a new zipper overlay, and redo this whole step. So you're just trimming it back away from, or far enough away, I guess I should say, so that you don't see it. All you see is the back of the zipper overlay. And then when you flip it around to the other side, you're not going to see the lining fabric at all. Okay, so this is what it looks like from the back. And then you flip it over and you just have the hole. Okay, so we're going to set this to the side. The next thing we need to do is get the zipper pocket prepared. So taking your your zipper pocket lining pieces, and your zipper tape, you're going to take one of your lining pieces, lay it right size up, and then with your zipper, decide which way you want it to open. If you want it to open and close to the right or to the left. I like mine opening and closing from the left, so I'm going to flip mine over so the open side, which is the rounded side of the zipper teeth, this is where it'll open and close from this side. I'm going to have it facing towards the left. Now with this zipper tape, I'm just going to line it up across the top here. Okay, and then I'm going to baste stitch this on right at this top edge, just baste stitch the zipper tape to the zipper pocket panel. Okay, so that should look like that once it's stitched on, just a base stitch, just to hold it in place. Now we're going to take the other piece of our zipper pocket, we're going to flip it over, and we're going to attach this one to the other side of the zipper tape. So you want to line up the pocket panels on the sides, line up that top edge of your zipper tape with the top edge of your pocket panel, and just like we did on the other side, we're going to base stitch this one on. Okay, so now we have both pocket panels basted on, looks like that. And what you want to do now is you want to flip both panels up. So this is, I'm opening and closing to this side. Normally the zipper pocket would lay this way inside the bag, but I want to flip them both up and out of the way. And I'm going to put double-sided tape along each long side of the zipper tape, because now we have to attach this to the hole we just made. So your zipper tape there, and then zipper tape along the bottom edge. Okay, and then removing the zipper teeth, or not the zipper teeth, the zipper tape. You're going to grab your lining panel with the hole cut out. Let me remove this other piece. This can be a little tricky depending on the zipper pull you chose, so you might just have to play with it a bit. But what we want to do is we want to center the zipper over this hole, or center the hole over your zipper, so you have about the same amount of distance on either side of your opening. And then you're going to lay your lining panel, lay that hole over the top of your zipper tape. You might have to work it a little bit. Sometimes it takes a minute to get it centered just how you want it. But once you have it centered, you're going to give it a nice press so it holds it in place for you. With both lining panels facing up, we're going to go to the sewing machine and just stitch a line along this bottom edge. So corner to corner, only along the bottom edge. Then I'm going to leave some long tails again, pull it through to the back, tie it off, and then I'll be back to show you how we finish the rest of the box. Okay, top stitched just from this end to this end. Now what you want to do, I'm going to move my zipper pull back to the middle, flip it over, and you're going to fold both of your pocket panels down. Okay, so you want them down towards the middle of your bag. I'm going to add a couple clips, just one on each side, just to help hold it right where I want it. And then flipping it back over. Now you're going to take it where you stopped here. You're going to start, you're going to put your needle down, stitch across, or stitch up, stitch across, and then stitch down. So that will finish off that box, and then that will seal your zipper pocket. Okay, so the box is finished. Everything is stitched on, looking good. This is how it looks from the back. You have stitching that goes down here a little bit, across, and then down here a little bit. And then this is where I tied off my strings. So now what you want to do is you want to take it back right side up. You're going to pull this panel away, and then you're going to just stitch down this line according to the seam allowance. So stitching just straight down this line. Then you're going to flip this side back and do the same thing, stitching down this side according to the seam allowance provided in the pattern. You're not going to stitch across the bottom. So once you get both sides stitched, you'll notice one side is a little bit longer. You can trim off this extra. You want to make sure you have some start and stop stitches here just to help secure that side, because this is where we're going to be turning the bag through in this opening. So you want to make sure that that's nice and secure and your stitches don't start to come apart. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to take it to the machine. We're going to stitch down this side, stitch down this side, trim that off, make sure I have a couple start and stop stitches here, and then we will be ready for the next step. Okay, stitch down the sides. Now optionally you can trim your zipper tape a little bit if you want to, and then I would recommend using a lighter just to singe the end of your zipper tape so that it doesn't fray. I'll do the same on this side, trim it just a little bit, singe the ends. Okay, and then the last thing I have to do is just trim off this extra down here. So I will use my rotary cutter. It doesn't have to be perfect because, you know, it's going to be on the inside of your bag, on the inside of your zipper pocket, and no one's going to see it. So there we go. All right, so that is ready. Now we are ready to attach part of the recessed zipper and attach this to this lining panel, then attach the other half of the recessed zipper to the other lining panel. And we're almost done. Okay, so here's one thing to think about when you're figuring out which way you want your bag to open and close. So if you had this half of the zipper panel, your bag would open and close this way, which I have, if this matters to you. I have my zipper pull opening and closing this way. If you had this panel, obviously it would open and close this way. Now I like, when I carry my bag, I like the zipper pocket to be next to my body and I wear it on my right side. So thinking about that, the bag is going to sit like this next to my body. So I want my opening to be at this end, which is will be in the front of my body, versus in the back where I can't really see what's going on back there. So since I want this to be the opening, I want this panel, the recessed zipper panel, and it doesn't matter that this is over here, but if that matters to you and if that bugs you, having one opening on this side, one opening on this side, then obviously you can switch it. You can use the other recessed zipper panel. Okay, so now to attach that, what we need to do, now that we've figured out which one we're using, is find the center. And again, I'll just make a little snip like I did earlier. Same thing for the main lining. I'm going to find the center of that panel, make a tiny snip. Okay, and then I'm just going to lay it down on top of the panel. So this is, and this can get tricky if you have not done recessed zippers before. It probably seems wrong or backwards, but don't worry, believe me, or trust me, I should say, it's going to be okay. It'll be all right. So what you want to do is when you're laying it down, you want it face up. So your teeth are facing you. The wrong side of your zipper is on the inside. So the bottom of your zipper panel is against the lining, and then this is going to be the outside. Okay, so that's how you want to attach it. Then you're going to take the piece that you cut off the top, and then you're going to flip it down right sides together, and you're going to clip that along the top as well. Okay, now you're going to take it to the sewing machine. You're going to sew according to the seam allowance, straight across this, attaching all the pieces together. Then you're going to take this panel, press it up and away, and then you're going to top stitch along this folded edge. Okay, so I'll do that. I'll show you the finished one, and then we'll make the other side. Okay, there is that completed panel. So top stitched on, or stitched on, flipped this top panel back, top stitched along this folded edge. Here's our recessed zipper piece looking perfect, just how we want it. Now we can put this one to the side, grab our other panel, our other lining panel, the other half of our recessed zipper, and then the other piece for the top. And we're going to do the same thing. So just like we did on the first one, we're going to find the centers. And then we're going to attach everything, stitch it down, flip that top piece back, top stitch that, and then we will be ready to put our linings together. Okay, so now that that one is attached, we have both of our lining panels ready. We are ready to put them together. So, right sides together, just like we did on the outer, we're going to line up this top band. We're going to line that up first. Clip it in place. And then I'm going to clip it all the way down. Same on this side, lining up this side seam first. I want these little tails tucked inside because I don't want to catch them in my seam. And then clip all the way down. Just adding a couple clips there at the top just to help hold everything in place. And then I'm going to clip across the bottom. Okay, now here is one option I will say, since we are turning the bag through this pocket, depending on the type of material that you used and the interfacing, that could be a little thick. It could be a little tight. It might take some work to get it through this pocket. If you don't feel like you want to chance it or struggle with it or anything like that, if you think this is just way too small, I will say that you have the option to leave this bottom hole open. Now, as you can see, it's not much wider. Once you stitch in, it's not going to be much wider than your pocket opening. However, it may give you a ½ an inch to an inch more room, so that might be just enough for what you need. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. I am going to chance it. I think it'll be just fine through the pocket. I'll have to do some work, but that's okay because I like that nice finished bottom seam there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to stitch down each side. I'm going to stitch across the bottom, and then I'm going to box the corners just like we did on the exterior, and then I'll be back to show you how we put it all together. All right, so here is my lining sewn together. Corners are boxed. What I'm going to do is just trim off about half of my seam allowance here, just to kind of help keep it a little less bulky there. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to put our bags together. All right, so grabbing your finished exterior, figuring out which side you want to be the front. Do you want the slip pocket to be the front, or do you want this to be the front? I think I want the slip pocket side to be the front, which means my zipper is going to go on the back side, which is how it's laying right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my exterior bag, which is right side out. I'm going to put it inside of my lining, which is wrong side out. Just gonna push it inside. Okay, and then lining up the side seams. And you will have to do a little bit of work because it can be a little tight, especially since the lining is probably a little bit bigger. Sorry, your exterior is probably a little bit bigger than your lining. And then if you did strap option B, you also have your straps. So if you have your straps, you want to make sure your straps are tucked down in between the layers. You don't want them poking out. Okay, so I'm just clipping at the side seams first, matching up the side seams, and then I'm just going to pull it. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit more. I'm just going to pull it straight and clip it around. Turning it around to the other side, same thing. Just kind of work it, pull it straight, and then clip it down. All right, once you have it clipped all the way around, you're going to take it to your sewing machine. You're going to stitch along this top edge according to the seam allowance all the way around. Then we're going to reach through the zipper opening. Let's move my zipper over to the other side. We're going to reach through there, reach inside, and pull the bag out. All right, now for the workout. We're going to reach into the hole. Usually I like to grab the bottom of the bag first, and it's okay if you squish it. Just slowly work it through. It might come through wrinkled, that's okay. We're going to iron it at the end, so don't worry about that. All right, once you get it turned through, you're going to push your lining down inside of your bag. And then we're going to clip it around at that top seam. Okay, once you get that clipped, go ahead and push your lining all the way in. You want to see how it's laying on the inside of your bag. If you're happy with it, you can kind of see. I have my pocket right here. Let me push the pocket back inside. Okay, so if you're happy with how it's laying and everything is good, you can pull your pocket back out. And we need to close up the hole on the pocket. So you're just going to fold in this bottom edge about, let's say about 3/8 to 1/2 of an inch. And then just clip it across the bottom there. Okay, then we're going to take this and stitch across the bottom, closing that. We're going to stuff the pocket back inside the pocket opening, and then you're going to top stitch all the way around the top of your bag. Now, if you did the other strap option, your straps are already attached, so just make sure your straps are pulled down and out of the way as you're top stitching. Don't top stitch over your strap. you're only top stitching the bag. Okay, so I'm going to do those two things. I'm going to do the pocket and top stitch, and then I will be back to show you how we do strap option A. Okay, so now that your bag is all stitched together and looking gorgeous, what we need to do now is attach the straps. Now, if you're using bag strap option B, you've already done that, so you don't have to do this step, obviously. If you are using strap option A, you're going to take your strap, and there are markings in the pattern for where you will line up your strap and where you will make your holes. Now, what I do is I will take this strap, I will do that, I will punch the holes, reline up the strap, and then use those holes as a guide to mark the holes on the bag, so I know where I need to punch through on the bag. Let's see if that one goes through. Yeah, it did. Okay, so that's where I will make my 4 holes. I will say, if you're adding some sort of D-ring or connector, if you wanted to be able to hook something on here, such as a tassel or some kind of charm or something, you will want to slide this onto your strap. Actually, I had to remove this hardware at the end here and then slide it on, but you will want to make sure that that is on first before you attach that, because once it's attached to your bag, you're not going to be able to put it back on. Now, unless you use some sort of regular a key ring, a split ring key ring, or an O-ring, jump ring, something like that, where you're able to open it, then you could still use it, obviously. Okay, so to attach our straps, once we've made these holes, I'm going to use my press here. I'm just going to make the holes in the bag on the spots that I marked. Okay, there we go. Now, taking our strap and our rivet. Let's see, that one is not looking so good. Something happened to that one. Got in a fight with the machine or something, it looks like. Okay, so we're going to take our rivet, push it through from the back side, through to the strap, and then put a cap on it. Now, sliding down your D-ring or your whatever you are using there, you want that between the 2 holes. So I'm pushing my next rivet up through that hole and attaching the cap. Okay, then I'm going to set those 2. I'm going to attach these ones as well, and I will just set them all at the same time. Okay, and then the last one on this side. Okay, so there's my rivets. I'm going to go ahead, let me push these out of the way. I'm going to use my cam press, flip the bag over, and press from the inside. Okay, now for this strap on this side, again, sorry guys if the camera's shaky. I need to figure out a better setup here so that you guys aren't getting seasick during my videos. Okay, there we go. All right, so here is the strap attached to this side with your little D-ring there. And now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. All right, guys, we are almost done with our bag. I think this one turned out really cute. I love the straps on the inside, how it matches with the zipper tape here and the zipper tape here. This adorable little Mario zipper pull. Now the last thing we need to do here is attach the zipper here. So I'm using my banana pull. Do my best to try and get it on straight. There we go. All right, look at that. It's so cute. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now that our zipper pull is on, we need to finish this off. So there are a couple options that you could do. There is a pattern piece measurement. If you're using non-fraying material, I would suggest for this one, if you're using cotton, that you would make it larger, and then you would have to fold in the ends. That also could make it a little bulky. So I would recommend for this bag to not use cotton woven. Instead, you could use a strip of vinyl. And this is actually the corner that I cut out of when I was making these pieces down here. This is a corner piece that I cut out of that. So you could just use that, clip it on. It's vinyl, so it won't fray. You can just leave it like this. Stitch a box around that edge and trim off these ends, which is what I think I'm going to do here. You also have the option, you could do a zipper hardware, a hardware end, zipper tab end. I don't know what it's called. Let's see, zipper stopper is what it's called on here. I will link to these in the pattern instructions. That's just an end. You could just hardware, you just put it on, you fold the ends in and then slide it over the end and then screw on the back. So that's an option there too. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this box around. Then I will trim these sides up so it's closer to even with the edge of the zipper tape. And then we are done. All right, guys, here's my finished bag. I think it turned out so cute. The last thing that I wanted to do is I just made this little tassel just to hook on there. I just think that gives it such a fun little boost, a fun little feature. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. I think it turned out, like I said, really cute. I love that the inside of the strap matches the zippers here and on the inside. And then of course we got this cute little banana pole, and inside all the Mario goodness. All right, if you make this bag, again, this is the Scoops Ahoy pattern by K.dill Handmade. And if you make it, please tag me on social media, post pictures. I'd love to see what you make with my patterns. And you could use the hashtag K.dill Handmade and K.dill Handmade patterns and hashtag Scoops Ahoy Tote. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video tutorial and for loving my patterns the way you do. I just really appreciate you, and I'm excited to see what you make. All right, guys, have fun. Happy sewing.